what's the highest probability for the direction of the week? And whatever those targets are you're aiming for the week, until they're met, until they're reached, you stay with that idea for the beginning basis of each individual narrative for individual sessions and daily bias as a default because of that. If you use previous day's highs and lows, which are they don't hide from you. I mean, they're right there for everybody to see. That was the very first thing I taught on baby pips to focus on for forex trading. You never run out of setups like that. And if you go back and look at the daily chart, every single trading day, the bias, whether you know it beforehand or after, in the beginning, you don't know what it is. So to teach yourself how to grow in your understanding of where to aim for each day, what is it more likely to aim for? The previous day's high or the previous day's low? And or the day before it, high or low? Or the day before it, high or low? So in other words, you're looking at the high and lows of the last 3 days. That's exactly what I introduced first on baby pips. If you use those 6 levels, okay, it's 3 highs and 3 lows, which one has been traded with a fair value gap? The one that creates one or trades to it and creates a fair value gap, and it allows you to move in sync with what you thought was going to happen for the weekly, like where is it going to go on the weekly chart? Is it likely to expand mostly higher or is it expanding mostly lower? If you're trying to focus on shorts, okay, it would go without saying that you're going to try to see a move to yesterday's low or the low prior to yesterday or the low 3 days ago. And using the 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock or the 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock or 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock or 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock in the morning or 7 o'clock to 8:30 in the morning, all of those are opportunities for you to look for that simple silver bullet model. Over time, with experience, you're going to determine that every single hourly candle can be traded and treated the same way as a daily range because everything is fractal. And by aiming for the previous hour's high or low, framing it with that mindset, you can start getting high frequency trading algorithm entries using a silver bullet model for a 15 or 30-second entry or fair value gap. Using any time frame less than an hour, you can do a 15-minute fair value gap with the silver bullet mindset. Silver bullet is not simply a matter of limiting it to a specific time. All I've done was take very specific generic times where order flow is going to be one-sided. That's what's occurring there because the algorithm is going to start spooling and delivering price one-sidedly. And because its nature is to perform that way, if you look for a fair value gap in those specific time windows where the beginning and the ending of it is, it can't hide from you. It literally cannot hide from you. It's a matter of you knowing what you're likely to draw to at that given time of day, whether it be London, PM session, AM session, it matters not. But you have to warm up to the idea of whatever it is you're trying to do, any one of those particular times of the day, that's where you should bloom, where you're planted. Plant yourself right there and say, okay, I don't care what ICT and the rest of his crew does and what their trades. I don't care about that. I don't care what new PD array or what model I release in October. I don't give two spits about whatever I talk about in the future in a book. I'm trying to nail down one thing so I can start getting good at doing one thing right now. You start with when can you get in the charts? Because if you can't figure that out or determine and settle in on that, nothing's going to work for you. But once you settle in with that, then you have to determine, okay, where's the likely draw on liquidity? I mean, that's the whole basis of what it is I'm teaching. Because if you can get to that, and you won't always be correct, are you in a state of mind that allows for that imperfection? Because many times in the beginning, people don't want to accept the fact that they may be less than 50% accurate. And that's normal for someone that's learning a new skill. And over time, you'll get to that 50-50. And eventually, over years, you'll get to 70 and higher. But you'll still have losing trades. And you'll be in a time when you think that you know where the market's going to go, draw to, and how you have been trying to frame bias and where the liquidity would be for the silver bullet to even pan out. But silver bullet is just a way for me to describe a return to a very small, insignificant piece of price action that's easily identifiable, which is the fair value gap, on a very, very small time frame during a time when it's going to run for 15 to 30 minutes minimum in one-sidedness and price delivery. So really, if you understand what I just said, there is lots of silver bullets throughout the course of a 24-hour period. And if you're using seconds charts, like 15 second, 30 seconds, man, there's dozens of them every day. Dozens of them. And the only thing I've tried to do is limit your focus because so many people have a hard time trying to figure out, well, I don't know what setup to do. I don't know what PD array. Okay, forget that. Here's the PD array. Here's the one little thing, that one little cog that you have to use. Focus just on this. But only look for it between this beginning time and this ending time and practice with that until you get really, really good at doing that one thing. Some of you will never want to do anything else because it makes you your money. And that does not mean you failed. It doesn't mean you're a subpar student. It doesn't mean that, my other stuff doesn't work. This means that you've discovered yourself and you've discovered what works for you and you're content with enough. Because with enough, the heavy lifting's done with money management. You can take a small little cookie cutter approach, very simple, small little idea of what I've taught here with Silver Bullet. You can turn that into a fortune. It's all how you manage the money and you submit the time. You have to have a target. You have to have an approach. What are you framing the draw on liquidity? Are you using a day where you think that it dropped early in the day, but eventually it's going to have a higher close or a higher high in the day? Okay, then that sets the framework for you, probably avoiding the morning session. Don't do anything in the morning session and set your sights on the PM 2 o'clock to 3 and or 3 to 4. There's a silver bullet in there. Okay, it's going to be there. But what are you going to be aiming for? In that case, if you felt that the morning session drop was just the making the low of the day, and then the PM session is going to just expand, going higher, going into the close, well, it goes without saying that you're going to be looking for expansion in the afternoon. So what would you be looking for? Well, was yesterday's higher than where you've traded today intraday? If it is, that's what you aim for. That's your draw on liquidity. And if you're using that as your basis, okay, wonderful. You're looking for 5, 10, 15 handles, whatever your silver bullet target is. I don't want to try to force it into just only being 5. But in the beginning, I believe everybody should be striving for just 5 handles. Because if you can consistently prove it to yourself that there's a probability behind it, and it's measurable that you can do it if you commit yourself to it. And then you have a track record that you've journaled. This is what I thought was going to happen. This is where I entered it. This is where I framed the risk. This is where I tried to get out at. And this is how many times it panned out for me. And this is how many times that it didn't pan out for me. And I'm still going to stick with it over time. I'm going to get better at it. And then after a while, when it's comfortable for you, but not in a hurry. Don't be in a rush to do it. Go from trying to aim for 5 to 10 handles and then live there for a little while, a couple months. Don't try to force it because you literally can change the entire trajectory of your life. Much like going back to what I was saying about my son, I said, Cameron, when you look at these trades, you don't realize that what you're doing, a couple $100 here and a couple $100 there per day, like they're the building blocks of you having something that's going to yield thousands of dollars per day, thousands of dollars per trade. But you have to allow for that to find.